I don't know if you've looked at the standings lately, but Vancouver, they're out there. We're going to talk about them and much more on today's episode of Locked On NHL.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everyone, you are listening and or watching Locked On NHL, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we bring you all the latest, greatest news across the NHL 5 days a week here on this very show. Thank you for tuning in and making today's show your first listen of the afternoon, ? As we decided to record a little later because we both looked at like what was happening in the NHL yesterday, and we're like, we want something bigger. We want something better to talk about for today's show. And I think we found it because all sorts of stuff happened yesterday. My name is Sarah, host of Locked On Kings and one half of your Locked On NHL Western Conference Wednesday crew, joined as always by Jess from Locked On Flames as we look at what's happening in the left side of the NHL map. And we're going to start with the one that I think has taken everyone by surprise, which is the Vancouver Canucks have been on a tear. And like so as a person who covers the Kings, my main concern is like, what is Vegas up to? Because they're right below the Kings. And so they're really all I've been paying attention to. I haven't watched like the rest of the division because most of them are eliminated by now. And I knew Vancouver was like hanging in there, but I didn't realize exactly how much they're hanging in there because right now, the time that we're recording this, Vegas and Vancouver are tied. They both have 87 points. Vegas would have the like tiebreaker because they have more regulation wins, but what?
I guess, shout out to everybody who had Vancouver. They're the sleeper team, I guess. When you sent me that message this morning saying, hey, like, we need to talk about Vancouver, and I was like, what's going on in Vancouver? And then I looked and I was like, oh,
That's going on.
They can win. Like, I knew they were doing well, like, based on the few Vancouver tweets I've seen on my timeline, but I didn't realize that they were still, I guess, technically in playoff contention.
Yeah. I thought that they were like, oh, we're hopeful, but we've got like 5 points to make up and everything would have to go perfect. No, they are right there in it. And this is all, of course, Bruce Boudreau. The team before Boudreau took over, they were 8-15-2 under Travis Green. Since Bruce Boudreau came on board, it's the Boudreau bump. They're 30-13-9. So imagine what this team would have been like had they actually had Boudreau all season. Like they've won 6 of their last 10, 2 overtime losses, so they're still picking up points even when they're not closing out the deal. This is now the funniest possible timeline.
Imagine if Vegas gets bumped out by a team who I'm pretty sure was sitting at the bottom of the Pacific standing at one point this season.
Yeah, they were not doing very well. And everyone just sort of wrote them off. And here we are. Their schedule to end the season is kind of tough. Well, it's pretty tough. They have Minnesota, Calgary, Seattle, the Kings, and Edmonton. And those the last 2 games, the Kings and Edmonton, I think is going to be especially important for them because they're kind of chasing them too. Vegas doesn't have a very easy schedule either as they wrap up their season. They've got Washington, the Sharks, Dallas, Chicago, and St. Louis. So I think this is for like the first time ever that Vegas is going to have to play meaningful games at this point because usually they had it all wrapped up. And this is the first time in a while that Vancouver's playing meaningful games because usually they've been eliminated by now.
Yeah. And I think it's, it's hard to like root for anyone in the division that's not your team, but I think Vancouver should just kind of go balls to the walls here and just play their hearts
Yeah.
out. I don't know. I think that everyone is kind of a little too comfortable in the Pacific Division,
Mhm.
and it's time for Vancouver to ruffle
Yeah.
some feathers.
Yeah, let's
And
get crazy.
right, and I
They're
think all of these teams have kind of come in this season and, everyone's preseason predictions were just like, "Yeah, Vegas will be at the top, and then maybe Calgary and Edmonton,
Mhm.
and then, we'll figure
Everything
something out
else.
there in the wild card." No. No, it was, like, the exact opposite.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
they are led in points by JT Miller, who has very quietly put up 93 points this season. Like,
wait,
where'd that come from?
weren't they just trying to trade this guy at the deadline?
Yeah, they were, or at least people were saying they should have,
Yeah.
but they kept him, and he's been great. Elias Pettersson, Quinn Hughes, both in the low 60s, so they're like next on the team. Um, Thatcher Demko, their goalie, has been putting together a pretty strong season. Like, no one expected this, and
No.
I feel like for the Canucks, like Canucks fans, like, I would think you have to be excited because everyone wrote your team off, 2 weeks into the season, and here you are, even if you don't make it, like, imagine how energized that gets you for next season to come back and be like, "Alright, we can compete with these
Right.
guys."
You're hanging there, like, you're hanging in there, and I think having a nearly 100-point scorer, I mean, there's
Yeah,
still obviously time left in the season to get to that point, but come on, like, that's
yeah,
exciting, and I don't know, what was there truly a difference maker, obviously with Bruce Boudreau, but, like, with the players, like, were they finally
mhm.
feeling something, feeling energized, and I don't know.
Yeah, it seems to have just changed the whole room. Like, immediately after the change, guys looked like they were having fun again, and at this point, you're like, are they going to re-sign Boudreaux? Like, are they going to give him a deal? Is he
Right.
back? Like, how do you not bring him back? Because he has turned this team around in comparison to Vegas, who most recently lost to the New Jersey Devils, 3-2 loss on Monday, which was again kind of funny. Sorry, Vegas fans. And you pointed out a stat to me before we recorded that I think is very interesting.
I did, and, I have to just pull it up real quick, but it is, I was cackling when I saw this, so I hope some jaws hit the floor, but since Jack Eichel has made his Golden Knights debut, which was February 16th, the Sabres are 13, 14, and 3, but Vegas is 13, 14, and 2. That is quite, the interesting take, I would say,
Yeah, that,
or
huh?
stat, but, yeah, so maybe Jack Eichel isn't the problem, like, the sole problem within the team or the, like, key fix to things, I guess.
Right. And yeah, I feel like, for as much as everyone, saw that trade at the time and were like, wait, that's it? That's all Buffalo got for Jack Eichel? Like, Alex Tuck has been working out really well for them. He has been helping, like, lead the Sabres. They've been getting contributions from other players. Like, the guys there, I mean, talk about looking like they're having fun playing again. Players in Buffalo don't look like they're just going through the motions. And
Right.
I think they have a good foundation to build on. And here we are. Here we are with Vegas just struggling.
How much do you think that Eichel wishes he ended up in Colorado instead?
Oh boy. I mean, he's probably, like, calling his agent. It's like, "Really,
Right.
man? Really?"
Right, like, he's like, "How do we reverse this?"
Yeah. I mean,
But
it's I love it. It's
yeah,
chaos. It's chaos, and it's like, I feel reasonably confident enough that, like, my team is gonna stay where they are, that it's the chaos I can enjoy. Like,
right. Like, you don't have to sweat this one out the way that,
so
like
yeah,
Vancouver.
Vancouver and Vegas fans are.
Yeah.
So good luck to them. I hope it's gonna be really interesting to watch these last couple games. I think the Kings' last game of the season is against Vancouver, so that's gonna be meaningful for both of them. And this is the chaos that no one expected from the Pacific Division. So
Yeah.
bring it on. We're going to talk about some other surprising teams in the Western Conference that we both were like, oh wow, they just did that. We're going to talk about that next on the show. But first, I want to tell you all about HelloFresh, because with HelloFresh, you get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. You can skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. If you've never done Home Fresh before, or Home Fresh, that's not what it's called. If you've never done HelloFresh before, what they do is you go online, you can pick your meals that you want sent. So you're basically choosing, they're not just sending you arbitrary things. So if you really love pork or chicken or shrimp or something, you can make sure that all the meals you're getting are things that you're going to want to eat. They send you all the ingredients that you need. So you get a bag with literally like a pepper, an onion, some helpfully labeled bags of like seasoning and stuff. And they send you the meat products, and they send you a very cool recipe card that you can keep and then make the recipe again on your own if you really want. And it just makes the whole kitchen cooking, meal planning experience way easier for people who are busy, who don't love trying to like, you go in your kitchen, you look at all your things, and you're like, I don't know how to make a meal out of all this. HelloFresh solves all of those problems for you. So if you're like me and you want your kitchen time to be less like stressful, you should go to hellofresh.com/locked on 16 and use the code locked on 16 to get up to 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. That is hellofresh.com/locked on 16, code locked on 16 to get all of your cool stuff. This is HelloFresh, and it is America's #1 meal kit. So the other team in the Western Conference that we were both like, "Oh, wow, that sure happened and no one noticed," was the St. Louis Blues, who just wound up a pretty substantial winning streak. They lost to the Bruins, but, like, speaking of where did this come from, how did the Blues very quietly rack up this winning streak, and I feel like no one noticed?
The That's the thing. I didn't even know that they were on that winning streak. I was watching, the game last night, and they had mentioned, like, the 9-game win streak, and I was like, "What? How did that happen?" Like, I knew that they were a competitive team, obviously, but I knew that they'd been having goaltending issues, and I knew that they had had some sort of, oh my goodness, injuries and whatnot, and then Tarasenko has, like, 40 goals
Of
or
course he
something.
does.
Eh, and this is just a guy who was left unprotected in the expansion draft, who was supposedly gonna have surgery, or I'm not surgery. Sorry, he has 33 goals.
Close
But
enough.
he was tired of the medical staff and whatnot. But he leads the team in points with 78. Um,
That's so many points.
right? Like I'm sitting here like scrolling through their standings or through their stats rather, and I'm just blown away. Jordan Bennington is having a tough year, which I can't say I'm like sorry for. But
Right, not
this
super bummed about.
right, like, but their goalie, I guess backup turned starter. I don't know. They're kind of just doing a 1-2 deal with these guys.
Mhm,
But he has, I think his name's Huso,
mhm.
and he has a 2.46 goals against average, and his save percentage is a 923, which is up there with like Vezina candidates.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they've pretty much split games. Like, he's played more games than Bennington. So I don't get it.
Yeah, this is gonna create a really interesting problem for the Blues after this season too, because, Bennington, obviously, they gave that, like, monster deal to. He is signed until 2027, cap hit of $6 million a year, and has clearly struggled this year. Ville Husso is a year younger than Bennington, so it's not like they've both been around for a while. Both of them spent a very long time in the minors before getting the call up. Husso is an unrestricted free agent at the end of this season. And so I feel like the Blues, I don't, I'm sure you can tune into Locked On Blues to hear more about their like goaltending pipeline. I don't know enough about like who's behind him in the system, but like, do the Blues re-sign him? Do they like
They
challenge
have
Jordan
to.
Bennington? They have to.
I mean, it would be foolish not to. I don't know. And I don't know what their cap space looks like
Mhm.
off the top of my head, but why would you, number one, I said this back in 2019 when they signed Bennington to that extension, or 2020, whatever it was. They put all their eggs in one basket. And
Yeah.
I'm sure I can find the tweet and say this is going to age like milk in the sun.
Mhm.
And I just, karma. As a Bruins fan, I'm just gonna say it's karma. I don't know. I don't know. And then Pavel Buchnevich, can't talk. Which he was acquired from the Rangers, and the Rangers are having a killer year, but he's also having a killer year with 71 points as well.
Surprise.
Right. I didn't know he was capable of doing that.
Yeah, like I knew he was good. Like whenever that trade happened, I was like, "Oh, this is sneaky good." Like if the Rangers were trading him, more people should have been in on that. But he's exploded for the Blues, and I feel like with the playoffs around the corner, the Blues are currently they're currently sitting in third place in the Central, putting them up for a matchup with Minnesota. Who I feel like if you like listen to Wild fans, they're like, "Oh my God, the team is like." They've won 7 of their last 10, so I think that's pretty good. The Blues have won 9 of their last 10. Their only loss has been an overtime loss. So you're going into that matchup. Marc-Andre Fleury, obviously huge for Minnesota. We're going to talk about him in a little bit too, but I feel like St. Louis is going to have an interesting choice to make when it comes to game 1 of who do you start? Like, do you keep going with the hot hand who has gotten you where you're at? Do you go back to the guy who won you the Stanley Cup? Like,
do you go
how
with the
short of a
hot
leash are
hand
they
or the
both
hot
on?
head?
Mhm.
Like, because Billington, I can't even talk. I'm sorry, everyone.
I just got your joke, and that's amazing.
Bennington is a sore loser. Like,
Yeah.
he has a temper, and I don't want to see this. I call him a kid. He's literally a year younger than Bennington. But to have him miss out on a fantastic opportunity to start in the playoffs because Blues management and whoever their coach is it still
Berube.
Yeah. Feels like he has to go back to the guy that won him the cup.
Mhm.
And like I think Husso would be a great fit.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like at the end of the day, you start Husso, he does really bad. Okay, well, you've got another goalie. Like you have options. But it's a problem that I don't think, no one expected them to have this problem because everyone was just like, "Oh, Binnington's the dude." And he has been meh this year.
Right. And then, I think when they traded away Jake Allen that same summer, they knew that obviously this kid was the next backup, but Jake Allen has had quite the struggles as well. So, I mean, that's a whole different story, but
yeah. I mean, A, he's Jake Allen. B, he's been hurt most of the year. C, even if he wasn't, he's in Montreal.
Yeah.
So, when
really was going in his
when the
favor.
Canadiens keep scoring exactly 0 goals to help Carey Price out in his return, like, I don't know, man. They're trying.
Listen to Locked On Canadians.
Yeah, they've got lots of feelings.
They do.
Many of them are about Cole Caulfield.
Cannot blame them.
That's fair. Speaking of the Wild, we're going to talk about some news out of Minnesota coming up after this. But before we do that, let's have a snack.
Yes, we love talking about snacks and food on this show. But Built Bar is a delicious tasting protein bar that I think should be in everyone's lunchbox. They come in many different flavors, and they have these new marshmallow puffs, which are just like the first ever protein infused marshmallows, and they taste delicious. The best part about it is that you don't feel like you're eating something healthy, so you can like trick your mind. And I know I will be ordering some more very soon. And you can get them at built.com and check out all of the flavors and the variety packs. Just find what you need. And then when you're done, you can use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off. Like I said, lots of different options, and they're good for you. High in fiber, high in protein, low in carbs and calories. And again, you can check them out at built.com with promo code LOCKED15.
All right. I love snacks. I feel like I'm going to go get a snack after this, after we talk all about Marc-Andre Fleury, the guy that you can put him on any team and people will be like, "Oh, I hate that team, but I love him." I feel
Yep.
like he gets that reaction from everybody, which is great. So he, of course, was with Chicago this year after Vegas sort of unceremoniously traded him without telling him about it. And Chicago at the deadline traded him to the Wild to give them a little bit more security in goal for them. And he recently announced there's been a lot of kind of questions about what he's going to do. This is his last season on his contract. People are kind of wondering, he's 37. He's won basically everything you can win. He's been, iconic in this league. And they're like, well, what's next for Marc-Andre Fleury? And he said yesterday that he wants to keep playing. He is hoping to sign another deal next year, and he is not ready to hang up the skates yet, which I feel like has got to have. I mean, speaking of teams with goalie problems, has got to have a lot of teams kind of perking up because who wouldn't want, even if he like turns back into a beach ball and can't stop anything, the experience, I always hate whenever people make a big deal out of like, oh, a guy's character, because a lot of times that's like code for, he's a white dude from Ontario, basically.
Right.
But no one I know in hockey who has ever worked with, interacted with Marc-Andre Fleury, no one has anything bad to say about him. So if you're a team that has like a young goalie, or maybe you're just unsure of your goaltending position, like, why wouldn't you want to bring him in?
Right. And I mean, I think it's a low risk, high reward sort of deal
Mhm.
here. You can sign him for a year. I
Mhm.
think that that's probably like the only term that they would
Yeah.
both his agent and the team would really agree upon, especially, he'll be 38. So
Mhm.
I think I think that there are a few teams who could definitely, definitely use a guy like
Mhm.
him. And I this guy has won everything.
Yeah.
And like when we were talking about the show and we were like, okay, like what do we want to talk about? Like this guy is like Tom Brady in the sense of he has won everything he could possibly win and he's still playing.
Yeah.
But I don't, I think that obviously there's the sense of, oh, like he's playing to win another cup. Like obviously like
Mhm.
you want to win, but I don't think that any athlete wants to go out before
Yeah.
they're,
Yeah.
they wanna leave it all out on the field or the ice wherever they're playing,
Mhm.
and I I don't know, I think if the Wild make a good run, I think that they could easily,
Mhm.
re-sign
Bring it
him.
back. Yeah. Yeah, and he like, thinking about guys who wanna, they wanna go out on their own terms, they wanna keep playing as long as they can. He like, even in practice, he is having fun. Like, if you ever watch him, like, he is, like, grinning the whole game. He loves this, and, of course, he's gonna wanna play as long as he can, and, yeah, I think Minnesota obviously is gonna have first crack at re-signing him. I know a big thing for him, and one of the reasons why it was sort of iffy if he was gonna get traded at all was he was like, I don't want to move my family around. I don't want to have to keep uprooting my kids, my wife. I think they have like what, 3 kids at
I think they
least.
have
Like,
3
3, yeah, they're all very cute. They're all very adorable little, children. But, so I could see him if Minnesota wants to keep him, I could see him wanting to stay there just because he's like, "Well, we're here." I know that there had been some kind of talk of, even if Chicago trades him, maybe he comes back to Chicago, since, he's been there all year. Like, I don't know if his family's moved, if they're still there, but,
Yeah.
you could see that. But I think that, if Minnesota thinks he's a good fit, why wouldn't you wanna keep him?
Yeah, and I would argue that Minnesota is more of a contender, obviously,
Mhm, mhm.
than, Chicago, so I think that they would honestly make the stronger push for him to
Yeah,
come back, especially, if he does have a good playoff run, and if
yeah.
the team does as well. So, I don't wanna say, like, "Oh, it's all dependent on his
Mhm.
playoff, performance." I mean, the guy has a stacked resume that he could
Yeah,
literally just
yeah,
tank the season and
yeah.
people would still want him,
Right.
so
And I think, like, I don't think Minnesota really has anyone else. Like, I don't know that their goaltending pipeline, they have, like, I know they drafted a guy, I think, in the last draft or something, but he's not ready to
he's
come over
not
yet.
ready. Right,
So, it could be a good fit for them while they're waiting for one of their young guys
right.
to be ready to come up.
And I love Cam Talbot, he seems like a really nice guy, but he is not a number 1 goaltender,
Yeah.
unfortunately, so
Yeah. The dog behind me thinks that Fleury should stay with Minnesota, so she made her thoughts known. So,
aw.
Fleury to Minnesota, again, you heard it here first from my dog. So, yeah, that's gonna be fun to watch. They're gonna be a fun team to watch in the playoffs. Kaprizov's probably gonna score, like, 8 billion goals, and it's gonna be funny, and I don't have to worry about it
Yeah.
because it's the Central Division, whatever. By the time we talk next week, we will have a really, really good picture of what's going on in the playoffs in the Western Conference. The East, all the spots have been clinched already. Now it's just down to seeding. The West still has some up for grabs, so it's going to be down to the wire, and I am excited to see what happens. That's it for us today. Until next time, Jess, where can folks find you and your work online?
Yes, so you can find me on Twitter at Jess Belmosto. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the spelling right there on the screen. And then, of course, you can find Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts and also YouTube.
All right, and you can find me on Twitter at Right Said Sarah. It's WRITE said Sarah with an H. Locked on Kings available wherever you get your podcasts, much like this show on your favorite podcast app of choice, YouTube, basically whatever it is. Look for the show, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button so you get little pop up notifications when a new episode comes out, and make sure you keep listening to this show all week long because there's great content coming at you from our great stable of hosts here on Locked On NHL to tell you all about what's going on in the league. We'll be back next Wednesday. Until then, enjoy the chaos of the end of the season. This has been Locked On NHL, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.